Welcome to the podcast that will teach you how to successfully invest in and build steady streams of passive income from the highly lucrative niche of mobile home park investing. Veteran real estate investors Kevin Bupp and Charles Dehart from Mobile Home Park Academy will personally share with you the valuable lessons they've learned along their journey as mobile home park investors, so that you too can learn how to build massive cash flow and huge profits from this extremely lucrative niche. So without further ado, let's welcome your hosts for today's show, Kevin Bupp and Charles Dehart.
Welcome, guys and gals, to the Mobile Home Park Academy's weekly podcast. We'll provide all the information that you need to know to successfully locate, negotiate, close on, and make huge profits from the lucrative niche of mobile home park investing. I'm your host, Kevin Bupp, and typically here with my co-host and business partner, Charles Dehart, but he's actually up in Buffalo, New York. I sent him up there to the frigid, cold weather of Buffalo, New York. Actually, it's not that frigid. As I'm doing this call here, it's like 50 degrees up there, which is kind of abnormal for this time of year, but we've got a park under contract up there, and he is up there on site doing due diligence, making sure that we're not buying a lemon. So it's just me here today. And on today's show, we're going to be sharing the stage with George Chen and Mark Sue. Both are new park investors who just purchased their very first 11-space park a few weeks ago in Connecticut. Both George and Mark, they're avid listeners to our show, and they originally reached out to Charles and I looking for advice or ideas on sourcing their second mobile home park. They're ready for their second one already. So today's show, not only will we pull back the curtain on this very first park acquisition and dig into all the nitty and gritty details, but we'll also actively discuss ideas on how they should be best spending their time sourcing that second deal. Because like I said, they're ready already. It's only been a few weeks and they're ready for that second deal. So, but before we introduce George and Mark to the show, I'd like to run through a few quick housekeeping items. The first one, you guys wouldn't believe it if I told you, but it's the truth. The Academy, the Mobile Home Park Academy that we've been talking about for so very, very long, like a year and a half now, it's finally here. So the Mobile Home Park Academy, it's finally here, guys. Charles and I, we've worked our butts off for the past year and a half putting this program together. And we're not just educators. I mean, we don't just do this podcast. We actually buy parks. Like I said, Charles is up in Buffalo right now. So it's taken a little bit longer than we thought, but it's because we're busy with our own business. So we buy parks, we operate parks, we practice what we preach here. So, but we've been working our butts off for a year and a half putting this program together. And I can confidently say, and Charles would say the same thing if he was here with me now, we can confidently say that it is hands down the most comprehensive training on mobile home park investing that you'll ever find. And I can say that because both Charles and I, we've been through every single boot camp that's out there. There's not a lot of education on this topic, okay? So, but Charles and I have been through every single thing that's out there, every boot camp. We've read every book, attended even industry roundtable masterminds, industry masterminds, and this program blows them all away. And I'm not saying that the other programs aren't good, because they are. I mean, in their own right, they're good, but this program is everything that a lot of those other programs aren't, okay? And like I said, we've been through them all, so I can truly say that I'm not just making that up. And there's not a lot of education out there on this topic. And this is really, it's everything. It's A to Z, everything that we do in our very own business. And it works because it's what we use each and every day to buy parks, to operate parks, and negotiate them, to raise capital for them, get them financed, turn them around, hire new management. It's everything A to Z. So, in the program, if you want to learn how to master the art of market analysis, which is so very important. We always say that the market is the most important part of the entire equation. Like, you could buy the prettiest park. It could have white fencing, it could have brand new homes in it, new roads, and be gorgeous, clubhouse, all this kind of fancy stuff. But if it's in a terrible market that has a declining job base where people aren't working, there's a 20% unemployment rate, then who cares if it's pretty if your tenants can't pay your rent, right? So we'll teach you how to actually perform the proper market analysis so that you're only buying parks in the most profitable markets. Okay, we're going to show you how to do that in the Academy. Want to learn the exact step-by-step process that Charles and I use in our own business to build highly targeted database of mobile home parks that meet your exact acquisition criteria? Well, done. We'll show you how to do that in the Mobile Home Park Academy. How about the negotiation tactics that we use to persuade owners to sell us their park using owner financing? We'll show you how to do that as well. Last year we bought 7 parks. 5 of those 7 we got owner financing on, okay? We do it all the time. You want to learn how to successfully raise all the private capital that you could ever need to get your deals done? We'll show you how to do that as well. We got an entire module on syndication and raising private capital, okay? What if you knew how to create a steady stream of highly qualified off-market leads that meet your exact criteria? Or better yet, How about if we show you how to build the steady stream and not have to rely on brokers to bring you deals? I mean, I know that it's really challenging getting into this business when you have to rely on brokers to bring you deals, because a lot of times they bring you junk. They kind of give you the scraps that are left over. And so we'll show you how to build this steady stream of off-market deals. And even better, you won't be competing with other buyers who are going to drive up the price. I mean, that's what happens nowadays. When anything makes it to the market, the price goes crazy. In fact, we haven't bought an on-market deal for a long time, because by the time they make it to market, there's a ton of buyers out there that are just they're dying to get returns on their money, and so they're willing to overpay for stuff. And so we're going to show you how to get off-market deals. This is where the profits are made. I mean, this is where the money is to be made. Not saying you can't find decent deals on market. It's just they're few and far between. And so we'll show you how to create a steady stream of off-market leads that will flow into your business each and every day, okay? I mean, really, the bottom line, I'm not going to beat a dead horse here. The bottom line is, if you want to learn how to successfully enter into this niche of mobile home parks and avoid all the common mistakes that new park investors make when they get into this business, then you owe it to yourself to at least check out the Academy. Go check it out. As you guys know, Charles and I, we love helping others who share that same passion for this business, and we love to help you, okay? And just to give you a little taste of what the Academy is all about, Charles and I, we spent a couple of weeks to put this together, but we wanted to put something together that would just give you a little bit of a sampling of what the Academy is all about. So we put together a free 2-hour in-depth web class, again, so you get a little sampling of what you can expect from that full-blown Academy. And you can register for this web class by going to our website, mobilehomeparkacademy.com. And one last thing I want to mention before we move on here is that we are so very confident in what we created in the Academy that we've even decided to offer a 100%, no questions asked, 30-day money-back guarantee for those who make the commitment to move the needle forward in their business, okay? I mean, we really are that confident. And if you don't like it after 30 days, you think it's not worth the value, the value is not there for whatever reason, no questions asked. We don't want you to be we don't want you to be there if it's not for you, right? And if it's not meant for you, if you're not finding out what you need to know to be in this business, we want to give your money back to you. So check it out, mobilehomeparkacademy.com. That's all I've got to say about that. Let's move on to the next laundry list item so we can get on to the show with Mark and George. Second big announcement is that our highly anticipated mobile home park investment fund is now live and open for business. So if you have any interest in partnering whatsoever with us on deals, we've got a lot in the pipeline now. Shoot us an email to partner@mobilehomeparkacademy.com. It's an autoresponder email, and almost immediately you'll get information regarding our current offer. So shoot us an email, partner@mobilehomeparkacademy.com. Also in that email, there will be a link to our calendar. So if you have an interest in actually getting on the phone with us and talking to us a little bit more about our offering and about working together with us, you can schedule it right there in that email. There will be a link to our calendar. So again, partnering with us, we've got a lot of deals, got a lot of stuff in the pipeline, a lot of good opportunities, and we'd love to partner with you. Okay, so partner@mobilehomeparkacademy.com. Shoot an email, and let's connect. A couple more real quick laundry list items. Charles and I were based in Dunedin, Florida. It's actually Clearwater area, so Tampa Bay. If you're ever local, if you're visiting, whether you're in town for work, pleasure, whatever it might be, I just had an awesome meeting the other day with David. He came in from Boston. He was here with his wife, and grabbed lunch with him. And so I love meeting others that just want to talk shop, whether it's mobile home parks or just real estate investing, whatever it might be. If you're in town, you're visiting, have some extra time, reach out to us. We'd love to meet with you if we can get our schedules coordinate. Just shoot us an email, mobilehomeparkacademy@gmail.com, and let's see if we can coordinate our travel plans together, okay? Lastly, this is really a casting call. We've been mentioning this now over the past couple of months. As you know, we've got George and Mark here today. We've had multiple other interviews that we've done of park investors that are either new to the business or that have been in a while, but basically they're operators. They own parks today, and they are actually actively owning parks as an investment. So we'd love to have you on the show. If you're someone that owns at least one park, and even if you own 100 of them, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what size park owner you are. As I mentioned here in the beginning, George and Mark, they have an 11-space park. It's their first one, but they're looking at their second. They're going to be buying more. It doesn't really matter. We want to hear your story. We understand, why you were attracted to this business. We understand the struggles that you went through, because we can all learn from one another's story, okay? And the whole goal with these calls, these interviews, is so that we can extract the important information that can hopefully help us avoid any mistakes that, the guests that we had on the show might have made. We can avoid those costly mistakes and try to, just make things more seamless as we get into this investment niche. So if you have an interest in being on the show, we'd love to have you. You can shoot us an email to mobilehomeparkacademy@gmail.com. And guys, that's it. Laundry list is done. It's put away. So without further ado, I would like to welcome George and Mark to the show. Guys, thanks for joining us today. How you doing?
Good. How's it going? Good. Thanks.
Yeah, it's going great. Thanks for joining us. I really appreciate you coming on the show and your willingness to share your story about the love that you've built for, or the love that you've created for mobile home parks. And so maybe what we could, guys, just real quick in the beginning, just take a few minutes and announce, your name, and just tell us a little bit more about yourself and your background, from a professional standpoint. I know both of you guys have full-time jobs, so tell us a little bit about yourself and how you found out about this business, or how you got into this business. So, Mark or George, either one, you can start first, but just say, your name and just tell us a little bit more about yourself.
Hey, guys. So this is George. I work in New York City. My professional career is sort of related to real estate debt. So from there, it branched off into interest in just buying real estate in general. Mark and I met in school at NYU here, and we were inspired by a pretty quirky real estate professor that we had that definitely taught us a lot about the business of just general real estate. And as we started looking, we looked at several different asset classes, from single family to self-storage. But then, we started peeling back the onion of mobile home parks, and the more layers we peeled, the more we fell in love with it. It's been almost a year plus of nonstop, I guess, research / sourcing to and then ultimately finding, bidding and closing on our park, and we couldn't be happier. So,
okay,
Mark, anything to add?
Sure. Yeah, sounds good. So, hi, I'm Mark. I'm in my day job. I'm in the consulting space, and I met George through grad school, and we took a bunch of real estate classes together. I think one day we were just chatting about different asset classes, and I mentioned that I met a guy that did a bunch of Lonnie deals, and then we started talking about financing mobile homes, and that got the ball rolling into exploring this more niche sector of real estate. And once we got the bug, really started diving into how to make this a reality. And, just recently closed on our first park and looking to pick up number 2 and 3 shortly.
Okay, well, good deal. So I'd love to understand what that professor, what he said to you, like, the quirky professor. What was it that he said about mobile home parks that kind of drew you guys to this niche? I mean, and did you spend any time looking at any of the other asset classes? I mean, did you actually go out and do some boots on the ground type research on other asset classes? Were you interested in anything else, or was it all theory up until that point, and then you said, what, let's take a dive in, let's go after mobile home parks based on what we've researched? I mean, tell me a little bit about this, the path to where you led you where you are today.
Sure. This is George. So the professor himself was just a very inspiring individual. We had a couple classes with him where you actually go out to Vegas and visit some of his properties. He started off in New York and did more SROs. That was in itself a pretty niche type of asset class, and basically there wasn't one thing that he inspired, but one thing that stuck in my mind is basically once you buy a sort of an off-brand asset class like SROs or mobile home parks, more brokers will come and flock to you because you will be known as the person that can close those type of deals. Everybody else will just be sort of window shopping. So, I know you said it before, Kevin, and this is probably more true in this industry, is that, the first one's probably the most important. So we did a ton of research. We started looking a year ago. The other asset classes we really looked into were, we looked at a ton of single family, but those numbers were really, really tight. And then we looked at self-storage, but I think Mark did a little more research, and that didn't appeal to us as much as the mobile home parks. And then once we started doing more mobile home parks, the more people network we started growing just through, sometimes through brokers, sometimes just through friends that might be interested, and just talking about it in general. I think really fuels the fire.
Just help me clarify, what's an SRO? I'm not familiar with that acronym. What does that stand for?
Mark, is it single rental occupancy?
Yeah, it's single room occupancy. Essentially, it's kind of like a dormitory housing in the sense that it's a shared bathroom. So if a unit does not have its own private bathroom, it's labeled an SRO. Maybe it's more particular to New York City.
Yeah, that's like inner city New York lingo right there for real estate. Okay.
Right.
Okay, good
it's
deal.
Sort of a boarding house, if you will.
Yep, understand.
And then, right, so you're renting rooms by the week or by the night even, and it operates more of a hotel, motel structure. So definitely more hands-on operations where there's more turnover and so forth.
I don't want to digress here, but your professor actually owned that type of investment in New York City?
Yeah, I think it started during the 70s and 80s too, when New York City wasn't as before Giuliani cleaned up a lot of things. So I think it lent itself to not the classiest of clientele. So obviously that's changed over time, but I think he was doing it at a time when it was very questionable characters coming in and out every day.
Yeah, that's a rough business model. I mean, that's kind of like, you'll see mobile home parks. If you guys have looked at it enough, I mean, you'll start running across the ones that have weekly rentals. It's like, ugh, it's just that, I don't know, like that's like the motel clientele, a very transient crowd that just, I mean, it's a filthy business. I mean, it just is. I don't care how you flip or flop it. I mean, it's just a filthy business, and it's got a lot of moving parts to it. You deal with a very unsavory tenant base typically, and I don't know. I don't care how big the dollars are, how big the returns are. You definitely cannot attract me to anything like that, because really there becomes a quality of life, and also actually some moral and ethical components that come into those equations, and just having that type of investment is not attractive to me whatsoever.
Yeah, definitely agree.
Yeah. So let's talk about this first park. So you guys were studying the economics of mobile home parks. Obviously, there was enough there that attracted you into it, saying, "Hey, let's go take a look. Let's go find some opportunities. Let's evaluate them." You settled on this 11-space park in Connecticut. Tell me about how you found this one, but also why Connecticut? I mean, were you looking just in your backyard? I mean, how far was your reach expanded? And just give me some of the particulars, or how you found it, what exactly you're looking for. Were you looking for this size? Were you looking for like a small one? Were you looking for bigger? I mean, just give me the general idea of this first park, okay?
Yeah, I think when we first started off, we were looking almost anywhere in the U.S. We didn't really know where to even hone in on. And then just talking through combination of brokers / owners, a lot of them were sort of pushing you should more invest in your backyard or somewhere that's drivable. I don't necessarily agree with that, but I think as a first park, I think there's a security blanket that came with that makes you, for anybody that's like nervous, it can get you over the hump a little bit. So I think, once we started searching more regionally, it was just one of those things where we set up a filter on Craigslist or LoopNet or something like that, and whatever popped up, we would do some demographic research and then talk to whoever it was. This one came through a Craigslist ad that we saw, and then just talking to the individual, sort of got a sense of why he was selling, how long he's owned it for, and then we did demographic research, and then we were like, okay, this everything makes sense. Everything seems reasonable. There's nothing in the closets. So, we made an offer, went back and forth, and then we finally settled. Those were somewhat nerve-wracking times, and then we started diligence. We were able to secure seller financing for a short term, so that always helps. And then especially in general, not having to go through a bank, I think really helps expedite any sort of diligence process. As you're a little more comfortable that ultimately, it's a shared risk.
Okay, and so you found it on Craigslist. You got owner financing. What did you end up paying for the park?
I think the final price we settled was $405,000.
Okay, so I just did some quick math here, and it's 11. Is it 11 occupied pads? Correct.
Correct.
And then there was a single family home as well on the parcel.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. So 11 pads, and then what was the monthly lot rent? I think you said it was nearing $500 a month, or maybe it was $500.
Yeah.
Okay. And so
I think it was like.
So 11 occupied pads, $500 or so a month, and you got that single family home. What is the utility set up there? Is it city water, city sewer?
No, it was everything was private, so it was well and septic. So we did some diligence on that as well with local guys, and got comfortable around that. There's a lot of water testing with the state environmental protection department, so everything ultimately got clear, which was nice. So, and the owner, one of the comforting facts was the owners owned it for I want to say almost like 30 years, which was helpful when you're buying from somebody who's owned it for such a long time. They know everything about it, and they know I feel like you don't really know how to run a park until you've done it for a year or two. So you go through the cycle once or twice. Obviously this guy's done it for a really long time, and everything's been okay. There's nothing outstanding. There's no black markers against the park itself. Looking through county files, so we got comfortable around the park that way.
Did he actually live inside the park in the home that was there?
Yeah, I think part of also what got us comfortable with some of the private utilities was we interacted with some of the folks at the state employees in the Environmental Protection Department, and they all seemed very responsive and receptive to discussions and contact, and we were able to gain some comfort that purchasing of this park, which had septic and well, would not blow up immediately.
Yeah. So is it the septic tanks? Is it one septic per home, or I'm assuming it's probably some shared septic? So it's such an older park.
Yeah, there was eight tanks. So almost one for one, but yeah, a couple of them share.
Okay, well, that's not bad. And so most of the homes that are in this park, they're all tenant owned, I'm guessing. Are they, older, like 1950s, 60s, 70s homes, or are there some newer homes in there as well?
Definitely some newer homes. I think the way it's laid out, most of the homes that we saw, we visited, I would say, a total of probably 5 or 6 parks, and then this park itself was the most attractive in the sense that all the homes were very well groomed, very well kept, and with the exception of maybe 1 or 2 homes that might be a little bit older, every other home was about 10 years old.
Oh wow!
Some
okay.
Or some a little old. So.
Gotcha. Is it paved roads that are in the park, or are they gravel?
That was another attractive feature. Everything was there was no curbing, but it was I think there was an easement. The town actually paved the road, which made it look very, very nice.
Mm-hmm. Good deal. Do you think there's any upside in the lot rents? I mean, do you think 500 is at the market, or do you think that there's actually some room to grow?
I think that's a good question. When we were doing our research, I think 500 is right around where other comparable parks are. So I think I don't think there's the massive, I guess, initial increase that we can expect. We'll probably just follow sort of inflation year over year, or beat inflation year over year.
Okay. And so, just based on my quick math, I don't know your exact numbers. I don't know what the taxes are like there, and I don't know what the monthly testing on the well is and things of that nature. I don't know how often the tanks need pumped. I mean, so there's a lot of variables there that I don't know, but just really quick and dirty numbers. I mean, you guys definitely bought it at a 10 cap. I mean, it seems. Just running some quick math. I mean, is that pretty accurate statement?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, definitely. I forgot. I think based on Mark did I think that Mark's the brains of the operation. He ran the numbers. I think we were coming up right around like 40 to 43 grand a year of NOI.
Yep.
So I think there's obviously some variability based on our pro forma, but. I think that's where we're shooting.
Yeah, that's good. I just did some really quick calculations on mine, and I came up with 42.9, so I'm pretty close. Look at that. And you guys didn't give me any details. So let's I want to ask a couple more questions about this park, because this is the first park. This is the foundation of your park investing business. I mean, this is the first one. This is the one that got you over the hump. Now you're moving on to your second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth. I don't know however many you guys are going to buy, but you're definitely moving on to the next one. This one here, let's talk about financing a little bit. So you guys persuaded the owner to carry financing on it. Can we talk a little bit about that conversation? Like, was that kind of open and out on the table initially, or was that something that you kind of had to get him comfortable with after you met him?
It was set it up. I think we sort of he's a seasoned real estate investor, so he understood seller financing. He's done it in the past with other asset classes, so he knew what it entailed, and he was we initially looked at the park in, I think it was middle of November, and we were trying to close by year end, which obviously meant he would have to do some seller financing because it's really tough to get bank financing and close to year end with that short of time period.
Hey guys, Kevin Bupp here from the Mobile Home Park Academy. I'm very sorry for interrupting your show, but I have something really special I'd like to share with you. If you haven't heard already, Charles and I are offering something really cool here at the Mobile Home Park Investing Podcast, and I just wanted to make sure that you knew about it. We're offering a free 30-minute phone consultation with the two of us, where you can ask us anything that you'd like about mobile home park investing. Maybe you're brand new and you just have a few questions that you'd like answered. Or maybe you want to run a deal past us and have us help you walk through the evaluation process. Or maybe you're an already experienced park owner and you just want to bounce a few ideas off of us. Whatever it is, Charles and I, we're very excited to speak with you. And there's absolutely no ulterior motive with these calls, so you don't need to worry about us trying to upsell you or pitch you on some kind of product or service. These calls are simply our way of giving back and connecting with others who share our same passion for this business. And just to reiterate, it doesn't matter if you're brand new or a seasoned investor. These calls are open to everyone. But there is one catch. It has to relate to mobile home parks. And so if you'd like to schedule that free 30-minute call with Charles and I, please send an email to freecall@mobilehomeparkacademy.com. Again, freecall@mobilehomeparkacademy.com, and almost immediately you'll receive an email back with a link to our calendar. And if you haven't received that email within 5 minutes or so, be sure to check your junk folder, okay? Sometimes it ends up there. And when you go to schedule that time on our calendar, please include a little background on yourself as well as what you'd like to discuss on our call. But please be sure that it relates to mobile home parks. Charles and I really look forward to connecting with you, and we look forward to helping you in your journey to success as a mobile home park investor. Now let's get back to the show.
And he was open to it for two different reasons. I think obviously he wanted to close by year end, which ultimately didn't happen, but we got the deal done anyway. He wanted to close by year end at the time, and he wanted obviously the tax advantages of seller financing. So him being savvy also, I think, helped us both be comfortable working with him. That it wasn't somebody who was scared that we were trying to take advantage. I think it was a very fair negotiation, and I think both we actually, every time we go up there, we have lunch together. So it's a very good relationship we have.
Yeah, that's great. And so, how much? What was it down? What kind of terms? Like, give me the terms. The down, amortization. Is there a balloon, interest rate?
Yep.
Give me all the details if you would.
It was so the park was, let's say, it was $400. We put $100 down. And it was a 3-year balloon amortized over 30 years at 4% and an 8.
4 and 8, yep.
Okay. Do you guys think? Do you have a concern about the ability to get financing within that balloon period?
Slightly. We have I don't think we have a concern right now. I think we just want to make sure we get everybody onto new leases and just really start things going. But I think, as it comes to the balloon, I think there's language that we mutually agree upon. We can extend it a year, and then we can always add additional addendums to the mortgage or to the note if need be. I think we will definitely look a lot for look more seriously in a couple of years. Once you have a track record and with financials, I think your options open up a little bit more. It doesn't have to be just collateral-based lending. It could also be finance-based lending. So
sure, no, absolutely. Okay. Well, sounds good. And then one last question about the owner financing. Was he critical with regards to the two of your background, your financial history? Did he ask you for credit statements? Did he ask you for bank statements to show that you actually had money? I mean, how critical was he on your actual track record and also your personal credit, your financial standings?
That's a great question. I think he was not very critical. We are both. There was recourse to the loan, but he didn't take our credit score or anything like that.
Okay. Well, good. So it was easy. It sounded like a super easy seller finance deal, which a lot of them are. A lot of them are very straightforward. If there's clear title, I'm sure he owned it free and clear. So, it was just very, very cut and dry, which is why I love seller financing. It's so much easier than jumping through the hoops of the bank,
Definitely.
Okay. Well, sounds good. Well, let's talk about the second deal. So you guys, right when we got onto this call, you guys were mentioning that you were sharing some details about a second opportunity. And I want to talk about, kind of things that you guys are looking at, the areas that you're looking in. And so give me some ideas of what you've looked at so far. Is there anything actually on the table that you guys have an interest in?
So definitely nothing officially on the table, but we've got a couple leads there in sort of our backyard again. One of them was in the northern New York area, and then the other one, I'm trying to think. I think both were like in the northern New York area, and I'm trying to think. We've been doing, just following your direction. I've been listening to, I think, podcast 7 over and over on how to build the database, and just constantly scraping data websites and trying to aggregate a database of our own. So I think that's what we're trying to figure out, is like how much time we're devoting to that versus our full-time jobs. So
right. The database is everything, man. It really is. It takes time to build it. It takes time to build it, but it's just no one else is willing to do it. And so, not that you don't still have competition, not that these people still won't be getting solicited by other people, but if you take enough time to build it, a very targeted database in the areas you want to buy, and you just work that list nonstop, it's just a matter of time until you have an opportunity come out of it, right? Because at some point in time, every seller, I don't care whether it's you, it's me, or anyone else, there's a point in time where either they need or they want to sell, right? It's either forced or they just want to make a change. They're going to get into something different, or whatever it might be. But there's always that timing, and you just got to get the timing right. So you build that database, and you just you work at it. You stay in contact. You get to know the people. You get to know the park owners. They get to know you, and that way, when the time comes for them to either need or want to sell, hopefully they think of you.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, so
then.
Go ahead.
We're also, trying to work through brokers as well. I think I agree with you. I think we've had good and bad experiences. I think there's always a couple brokers that, unfortunately, I think is the name for the really good ones out there that do great work. We've had experiences where I think this is more as a warning for other potential first-time buyers. Is we've gone through a process where we bid parks and we thought we were almost in contract, where there was no, and then there was actually no park, or there was no, as in like there was no feedback or no there were no results, or some pretty lame excuse came up, and we didn't think it was a clean process where we didn't get a fair look. So I don't know, things will come up like that, and those are unfortunate events that I think not reflective of what a great broker can do for you. But I agree with you. I think that's why a database is so important. Is you sort of are running the show yourself a little bit. You know what's real, what's not, and I think that's extremely, extremely valuable going forward.
Yeah, and there's really good brokers out there. Honestly, it's the park that we have in contract right now in Buffalo, New York. That broker is probably one of the better brokers I've ever worked with. He is so incredibly responsive, and he's actually representing the seller and us, the buyer. And he's so incredibly responsive. He's looking out for our best interests as well. In fact, it's been such a pleasurable experience working with him. And I mean, there's still a chance we might not buy the deal. You know, it could fall apart. But I mean, even then, I mean, it's been a great experience. And I promise you, I will work with him. And he'll probably want to work with us. It's because it's been so good working together. But I've had the complete opposite experience as well with brokers. And I don't like begging for business. And we're in a buyer or we're in a seller's market right now. And brokers, if they have a decent property that they have access to, they don't have to work that hard to sell it, because there's way more buyers than sellers out there. And I just hate having to beg for properties. So maybe it's just me, my pride. It's a pride thing, but I hate having to beg for properties. And so, but the cool thing about the database is you're right. You can kind of control your own destiny. And essentially what you're doing with that database, you're doing what any good broker should be doing. Like within the market that they're working, you're doing exactly what they do. You're basically finding out who owns what, how long they've owned it, talking to them, finding out if they have an interest in selling, and then staying in contact with them on a regular basis. I mean, that's what good brokers do. And so you're just basically circumventing that system. But once you have that database, there's so many options because you can work it yourself. Or like us, we've got our database built in many, many markets, like more markets than we can actually personally touch on our own on a regular basis. And so we work with brokers in a very unique way, a kind of hand-selected process in markets that we don't have time to really focus in to where we have a database. So we'll literally take our database and we'll go to a market that we haven't really been able to spend a lot of time on, and we'll research and find a local broker that's got like really deep roots in that local marketplace, that's been there for a while, 20, 30 years. I mean, he doesn't have to be obviously a mobile home park specialist. He probably isn't. But there's someone that actually knows general commercial real estate, knows a lot of local families that own property in the area. And we'll basically say, hey, Mr. Broker, here's who we are. Here's what we do. We're looking for someone that we can basically can team up with. I mean, we've done all the legwork for you. Like, we've literally got the list of the owner's phone numbers, their cell phone numbers, their home addresses, their vacation house addresses. I mean, we know everything about them. And these are parks that we'd have an interest in buying. What we're asking of you is that if you would basically be the person that follows up with them, make initial contact, follow up with them on a regular basis. And when the time comes, when they're ready or need to sell, you'll bring it to us, and you won't take it and shop it to other people. And that way we basically create our own pocket listings. We've got someone working on our behalf for free because, typically the seller's going to pay the commission. If they won't, and if we can get it at the right price, we'll even pay the commission. We'll pay the broker's commission. But I like that because then you're in control. We basically are not calling the shots, but we're showing good faith to the broker saying, hey, like, we can perform. We've already done half your job for you. Now, here, please, you do the other half, and let's do a deal together. And so it's a very win-win type relationship, and it's worked really well for us. So that's typically what we do a lot of times when we're working with brokers. But anyway, not to digress. But really, what I was trying to make a point about that database, why it's so vitally important, and why you really like leaps and bounds ahead of your competition if you take the time to build it out. It just takes a lot of time. It's very tedious, but it's definitely worth it in the long run. I want to talk about, there was something I want to ask about that first park. And so I'm going to go back and forth here a little bit. I wanted to talk about any challenges you guys faced in this first park. I know you found it on Craigslist, but were there any challenges prior to this one? Like just any parks that you had tied up and they fell apart? I know you said you had a couple of things that you made offers on, and just for whatever reason it wasn't a pleasurable experience. They fell apart. But were there any other parks you actually had under contract, or were there any other like road bumps you hit along the way before you actually tied this very first park up?
I'm trying to think of. I think alluded to briefly in the sense that nothing officially under contract. There were definitely. There was one park in Pennsylvania. I think we had a serious look at. We agreed on pricing, and we were about to sign. And then the broker became a little more aggressive than I think I was comfortable with. And then and then from there it didn't go well. And we sort of were like, well, we don't necessarily need to work with you. So we'll take our business elsewhere. It was very confusing why, there was such an aggressive broker who I felt didn't understand as much about the just the industry as that was trying to push us to close as quickly as possible. That part I think was one of the negative experiences we had with brokers. But we've definitely had a lot of positive ones as well. So I don't want to
I love it. I love when you get aggressive brokers like that. I love when you get aggressive brokers like that don't know very much about the mobile home park business, and they're like, guys, this is the cash cow. You better grab this thing. This thing makes so much money. You better pick it up, and or else it's going to be gone. You know, like they're like, what are you talking about? Right. Like, you don't even know what you're talking about here. That's, you know, and most of the time they're actually judging that by the owner's numbers or what the owner's telling them the thing's making, which is typically very, very wrong from the truth. You know, very far from the truth of what it really could make if it was run professionally, or what it would make if it was run professionally. So, talk to me about you're building your database. Have you guys actually gone as far as like do a direct mailing? Are you making any cold calls? I mean, how are you working that database, or have you not started working the database yet?
I think right now, we're building a couple of things. We're trying to build a database of parks, but we're also trying to build sort of just a general, I guess, valuation guide of what a mobile home costs. Because I think a lot of the issues that we come across is how much should a park be worth if, let's say, 10, 15, 20% of the homes are park owned. So I think that there's a valuation process there that we're not terribly comfortable with, and that's something that hopefully building a data set of homes just across the U.S. and, you know, if you can get by vintage or by size, like, it'll give you a good comp of what it should be worth. So I think that'll help sharpen our bid for those type of parks. You
mean just what the home itself is worth, or is that what you mean by like what the actual the home itself? You're not, because you need to separate the lot portion from the value of the home itself, right? Is that what we're talking about here?
Yeah, exactly, and I think the lot side we're pretty comfortable with that, but on the actual how much the manufacturer housing is worth, I think that part, I think everybody takes pretty conservative assumptions, which is very fair. But I think like if you can get a little sharper around that, and get a little more comfortable around that, I think I think that makes you have an advantage during the bidding process.
Yeah,
so I think those type of things just take time, but.
I got some feedback on that, and I mean, every area is so different that I don't know if you're really gonna. I don't know if it'd be worth your efforts to try to come up with like a general idea across the country of like what a certain vintage sells for, because every market is so specific. Really what you need to do, get on Craigslist and see what people are asking. First off, that doesn't mean what they're selling for, but find whatever market you're in. There's always a broker or an agent, like typically a residential agent. There's always a few residential agents that actually sell mobile homes, like inside parks. Like if it's in an area that actually has other mobile home parks, you could probably find some sales comps from other agents, or just find out what they're listing them for. Just give them a call and talk to them. But I just get on Craigslist and I get a general idea of what things are selling for. But at the end of the day, my whole goal is to actually only pay for what I can truly turn around and sell it for. Like not what I could fetch for it if I let it sit on the market for a year and like wait for that very right buyer, but like what can I really sell it for? Like if I wanted to turn around and move it in like 6 weeks, like not give it away, but like kind of the middle ground, like not give it away, not wait a year to get the highest and best price, but like what's the middle road? Like what's that middle price point that it would move fast, I wouldn't be giving it away. Like that's what I want to pay for it. And I think that you should easily be able to find that out just by do a little bit of research on Craigslist, go look in other parks, find out what they're, what people are asking for their homes, and then call a couple of real estate agents, because every market's so specific. I mean, we have a park up in Virginia that is full of like 1960s and 70s homes. I mean, they're actually all well kept. The park is really well kept in general, and those things fly off the shelves at like $4,000 and $5,000. It's crazy. I mean, they're small. They've got small bedrooms. I mean, they've all been updated. They're all full electric. They've been, a lot of them have been re-roofed over the years, but still, they're small old trailers. And if we had those homes in any other park, literally, if we had those homes in a park in North Carolina or a park in Georgia, they would maybe be worth $1,500. I mean, in fact, they probably wouldn't even sell. We'd probably have to rip them out and bring a newer 3-bedroom, 2-bath home in. So, it's just every market's so unique in itself. So what's next, guys? What?
That's great advice.
Yeah. What's next? I mean, how soon? What's your goal as far as getting your next deal done? Give me. You got to have some kind of. There's got to be a deadline in the two of your heads that, hey man, let's by April 15th or by June 1st, we want to have our second park under contract, or we want to own our second park already. Do you have any goals like that in place?
Not specifically. We were hoping when we started off last year, we were saying, let's do one park a year. But I think after the momentum of the first one, I could see us easily trying to do 2 parks this year. I would love it if we could. I think the first one, if we get some warm leads, I would love to, close a park by the end of summer and then have another warm lead ready to go into the winter time.
Yeah, I tell you what you guys need to do, and you probably heard us talk about this in the show. You got your database, but go in a in like a 20-mile radius of that park that you just bought, maybe a 25-mile radius even, but do a radius and do a mailer. And even do cold calls, because there's probably not that many parks in Connecticut. So, I mean, it's probably not going to be a list of hundreds. I mean, it's probably going to be like 20 or 30, that would be like in the size that you guys are looking for. Maybe not even that many, but do a mailer and be very personalized about it. Send it to the owner. Just introduce yourselves, and but make sure you reference that you just purchased a park that literally you just closed. You don't have to be super specific about it, but just put the area that you closed in on. Just really you want to make sure that they understand that you have money, that you guys are serious, that you're not tire kickers, that you're not just sending a form letter out to 100 park owners out there, which really it will be a form letter because it's going to be the same letter to all these people. But make it very personalized in nature and let them know that you guys are local and that you spend a lot of time in the area and that you'd love to meet for coffee one day. And not necessarily that they're looking to sell now, but even if they're not looking to sell, just say, hey, we'd love to meet others in this industry. It's very small and tight knit, so we'd like to say hi. And maybe you're not interested in selling, but we'd still like to say hi and meet you, and just try to build some kind of relationship. Find a reason to build a relationship with these other park owners, and whether or not it's the time to actually have the discussion about them selling, at least know who you are. They'll know that you have an interest in their park. I would probably let them know that you've seen their park, which you kind of have because of Google Earth, even if you haven't driven through it personally. Let them know that you've seen their park. You like the size of it fits kind of what you're looking for, and just be very personalized and specific. And that works really well for us. In fact, we find that we actually get literally about double the response rate from a particular targeted region. If we just do a normal mass mailer out to a region where we don't own anything yet, but then once we buy something and then we actually send another mailer out saying, hey, we just purchased this, we're coming to the area, would love to meet with you, would love to have lunch, grab breakfast, whatever, our response rate's about double. Because now you've actually proven, like you're just not some guy out there sending letters out to every park owner. You've proven now that you can actually execute and that you've got money and that you're not just going to waste their time.
I think that's great advice for sourcing, building on the momentum. I was just curious, do you have any general sort of metrics? If for a first-time buyer, if you didn't have, an anchor park, could you give some rough guidelines as to how you would, when you don't own in a certain area, what you're looking for? I know, you covered this, I think, in one of the previous episodes, but just as a refresher, or if anything's been updated on your side, if there's any the market analysis you were talking about earlier, when you market to a new area, because I'm more curious, should we be doing in our backyard, and if not, then I guess if we could get some guidance as to where we should look next, I think that'd be helpful.
As far as where you should look next, let's talk about that first before we start talking about the market specifics. But how far you should go away. I mean, as you guys know, we own parks really far away. In fact, we don't own anything in Florida at the moment, which is where I live. We do have a couple in contract here in Florida, but I actually find that there's a benefit from owning things far away because it doesn't give you that urge to go to the park on a regular basis. Because if you got an on-site manager, if you have someone there that's running the show that's competent, that you've trained properly, then there's really never a point in time that you showing up would make things better. So let's talk about natural. If there's a natural catastrophe like a windstorm came through and blew some trailers over, or a fire started, or there was a murder. Let's talk about things like that. That are a big deal. If that happened, it still wouldn't make a difference if it was close to you. So I'm not really opposed to buying things far away. I actually like it because I don't feel the urgency to go visit often. Technology allows us to accomplish a lot of things without going in person. When we first buy a park, we do make multiple visits depending on how much of a turnaround it is, or how what we have to do in that particular park. But once it's stabilized and rents are coming in, and we got good management in place, technology allows you to accomplish a lot of things remotely, and so. About our only criteria as far as distance wise, I don't like crossing over multiple time zones. That's just my personal preference. So we try to stay in like a central time zone. That's about as far west that we'll go. I like to know that I can jump on an airplane from, in Tampa and, fly direct, get a direct flight, within 2.5 hours and then drive no more than an hour in a rental car and get to the park. There's some exceptions to that rule, but that's just like our real quick and dirty analysis as to like where we would consider buying a park. Like there was a park in, I forget what part of Ohio it was in, that we just looked at, we made an offer on, and then we kind of just backed out. Like we probably could have bought it, but it was like 2 hours away from the airport. There was no direct flights. So like you're talking layovers and 2-hour car drive. I'm like, yeah, it was like a 50 space park. I'm like, it just seems like it's a headache. It could make money, it could be great, but even going there the first time, I would be kind of like, this is gonna be like a full 3 days, get back and forth just to go see this park. And if we were buying a bigger park, we might be able to justify it. But that small of a park, we had a hard time justifying, and we backed out for that reason. But as far as like local, statistics go and demographics, we're looking for like $100,000 median home prices. I want median incomes of about $40,000 or so, and we'll make exceptions to that as well. Certain markets are kind of anomalies where, we were talking about this before we started recording. There's, basically the entire state of Michigan. There's tons of markets that are below that 100,000 median home threshold, and the lot rents are like $300 plus. And so every market is so specific to one another. But our general rules of thumbs are like $100,000 median house price. We want unemployment rate to be under 7%. We want there to be, typically like 14% or less vacant housing in the marketplace. We want to know that the median rents for 2-bedroom apartments are at least $700 plus. 3 bedrooms, $800 to $900 plus. Just things like that. We don't know if the schools are good. We don't know that we're buying the park in a neighborhood that's has desirable schools. We don't want to be like in the worst school district in the entire market, because we cater to families a lot of times with our parks. And so families, even if they're low-income families, they want the best for their kids most of the time, and they want their kids to go to good schools. So we look at just general things like that. And, size-wise, we want 50 spaces or larger, and preference is city utilities, but we'll look at private. We'll look at septics are okay. Package plants we really could care less for. Lagoons, don't really like those. And wells, I really don't like wells either. We currently have a parking contract that's on a well and septic, but the only reason we're actually even considering it is because there's the city water and sewer line is at the front of the park. And so we're hopefully going to be able to, if we do buy the park, we'll be able to tap into that, just the water portion. We'd want to tap into the water portion to just, go ahead and cap off the well, shut it down, and get on the city water source. So, but is that what is that what you meant by asking us kind of what our criteria is, what we look for, or were you thinking of something different? I want to make sure I answer your question correctly.
No, I think that's exactly. No, that was extremely helpful. Yeah, I think the first part is, sometimes I could agree with you more that I feel like every time something comes up with the park, or just you feel like you want to go there just to just to fix any issues that come up, make sure everybody's happy. But I think it is better to almost transact at an arm's length away, and everybody should be held responsible for your hiring park managers. They should be doing their jobs, and it's you should be handling a lot of the higher level, I guess, questions. But I think that everybody should be executing on whatever you've decided on. Yeah,
I want to give the tools and the resources to our park manager to empower them, to actually allow them to do their job. I don't like being micromanaged, and I definitely don't like micromanaging other people, and I don't like when I have to. And so, if we find that we have to do that to a manager, we get rid of them. We find someone that's actually a kind of a self-starter that they can manage on their own. With the right direction, with the right guidance, right tools, they can maintain their own. We still communicate with them on a regular basis, but I want them to be the person that handles the day-to-day operations. That's why we hired them. That's why they're there. And, I honestly, every park we own, I don't think any of the tenants know who. When we go visit, whether it's me or one of the other partners, they don't know who we are. They probably just. I don't know what the managers tell them, but I always tell them, do never tell them that I'm the owner. I don't want to be the owner. Just tell them I work for the management company. I'm here visiting from corporate, whatever they want to tell them. But just I'm not the owner. I don't want anyone to know that I'm the owner, because it causes problems. When you've got a direct. It's not that I dislike tenants, but it's easy to actually always, to play the role of, sorry guys, I don't make that decision. That's the up above. Like it's not my rules. I just enforce them. And I tell our managers the same thing. Like you really need to play that card. Like you need to enforce our rules as black and white. And it's there's no debate. Like it's just you don't have control to make an exception. Like it's not your rules. You're just enforcing them. That's your job. And so when I'm there, it's the same thing. Like I don't want them to think they can come to me and like overmind or override the manager or like go around the manager. And so I'm just kind of the anonymous guy walking around checking things out. And so I don't like to get personally involved with the tenants.
Yeah, no, definitely.
So what do you guys think? So let me ask you this. And I want an answer from both of you guys, if you don't mind. So you're very fresh into this business, and but you get it. Like you get the analysis side of things. I mean, like you said, you have a little bit of struggles with like the park owned home component. What the value of those things at. But you know what? At the end of the day, that shouldn't kill a deal. I mean, you shouldn't be that if the home's worth $7,000 and you think they're worth $4,000 and there's 10 of them, I mean, you're talking $30,000. I mean, it really shouldn't kill a deal from a valuation of a park-owned home, or if there's like 10 of them in the park. Now, if it's a mobile home park that's got like 50 of them, well, that's a different story. Now you could be talking like $100,000 difference or possibly more than that. But I don't think it should ever kill a deal. But with that being said, what advice would you give those new investors that are looking to get in this business? The new investors that they're in your shoes 6 months ago. Like they know that mobile home parks are the place to be. They want to get into it. They want to buy their first park, whatever size it may be. But what advice, and I want an answer from each one of you if you don't mind, what advice would you give a new person looking to get in? Like it could be general advice, be very specific, but what advice would you give them?
I think I'm trying to think of what really got me over the hurdle with the first park. Obviously, I think my two advice would be having a partner definitely helps bounce ideas off of. Mark and I have our own strengths, so it's great to have a collaborative mind. Obviously, Kevin, you provide a great service to be able to. I just emailed you, and here we are talking. So it's always good to have somebody to talk to bounce ideas off of. And then what got me over the hump with the first park is this is such a rule of thumb that it's really hard to follow, is that I liked how the owner owned it for such a long time. I think it's one of those great things in real estate. If somebody has owned it and taken care of something for when you're buying your first house, or when you're buying a house in general, and it might be a little outdated, but if the owner has lived in there for the past 40 years, I think it's usually a pretty sound investment. You can obviously go in and do whatever you want with it, but I think a lot of issues that should come up in diligence won't, because of somebody that's owned it for such a long time, that's constantly being either through tax assessment, through annual water and air audits by the state, those type of things. As they go through the cycle, as long as everything passes, I think that was what got me over the hump to buy the first one.
Okay. And I want to add to that a little bit. And I think you guys, you found a good park owner right there. I mean, you found someone that actually took care of things. He owned it for a long time, but he also maintained it, which is great. I mean, we definitely find parks that have been maintained and the owners have done well, but then we find the complete opposite, where owners had it for 30 years and he literally hasn't done a thing for 30 years, but bleed the income out of it, hasn't put a dime back into it, which is the other end of the spectrum, which those are the ones that you run into and you're like, oh my gosh, like I can't believe, number one, I can't believe you've been here for 30 years. Number two, what have you done with your money? Because you haven't put it back in the park. So,
right.
Yeah. So, but you guys found a good one. That's a good one. That's always very comforting when you see that it's been well maintained. And honestly, if the tenants have actually, if you see that the tenants have a great pride of ownership in their homes and they all maintain their homes and their newer homes, that's a very good sign, because I can promise you said like most of the homes were like within 10 years of age. That means that those people probably had older homes, and then they got sick of the older home, they moved a new one. And so they like that. They like the park so much that they upgraded. While living there, they've upgraded. And I mean, they're not intending on leaving anytime soon. I mean, they probably have most of the tenants been in that park for, more than 10 years?
Yeah, I think that was another thing that came to mind was when I was asking about what is the oldest tenant. I mean, people have been there for 20 years.
Yeah.
I think that there was one that was recently, aside from one that was there for a little over a year, everybody else has been there 5 to 20 years, so which is, I think, very comforting. That there's the stability of income, the stability of, and to your point earlier about the pride of ownership, I think that's, it shows through and through in how well the park is maintained, but also the individual lots. Everything's, the lawns are very well manicured. It's nice to have.
Okay. And then, Mark, what advice would you give a new park investor?
Yeah, definitely. I think one thing to keep in mind is if you're starting out is to just manage risks personally. So, for example, what George and I get some comfort was that this was a smaller park, so we'd have a little less capital risk, so we can subsequently invest in second and third parks. And primarily that, just in my personal experience, every venture or business opportunity that I've been in, I feel like the first one I've always done poorly or returned less than estimated or calculated. So definitely want to, say we bought at a 10 cap, we think we're doing 20% or more return on equity. As a first-time owner, you're probably going to make some mistakes, misestimate expenses, or screw something up. So you definitely want to have a little bit of a cushion in that sense. And if a lot of the resources out there, such as the podcast and the mobile home park academies, will probably help alleviate and reduce some of these mistakes. But I feel just from a personal comfort sense, if you build in a little bit of cushion, for example, if we think we're getting 10 cap, 20% plus return on equities, even if we screw up a few things, we're still coming out okay, and that builds a little bit of a margin of safety in our venture.
Yeah, no, I think that's great advice. I mean, we're very, very conservative. Actually, sometimes to our fault. There's been certain deals that Charles and I, we look back now, we kind of kick ourselves in the butt with a little bit. There's one in particular that comes to mind that we were just overly conservative on. We were in contract with it and we backed out on that. We realized like 2 months later, we're like, what were we thinking? Like, come on. Like, we're like, there's conservative, then there's like ultra conservative that like you're going to like kill deals because like you're trying to put too much of a buffer in there, too much of a pillow in place. And so but no, I think that's great advice because you are going to make mistakes. I mean, it's very helpful if you've been a landlord before. So like if you've had some kind of rental properties to where you've been in the business and you're very firm on your rules, like like the rules and regulations you're going to enforce in your park. If you're good with like enforcing those types of things, you'll probably do a little bit better. But I see a lot of the mistakes where a lot of the mistakes come into play and it doesn't just apply to mobile home parks, but when people get into the real estate business and they're going to be actively involved in it to where even if they have a manager in place, let's say they have a manager in the park or they're that's going to be collecting rents and such, where they're not good at enforcing the rules. They're not good at saying, it's due on the 1st, it's late on the 6th, and I'm sorry. Like, there's no exceptions to it. It's a business. We got to pay my bills, you got to pay your bills, and here's our policy when this happens. And they get lenient. They start making exceptions for one person, then the next person, and then all of a sudden, a year down the road, you find out you got like $5,000 of like rolling balances, that haven't been paid and which are never going to get caught up. I see that being a big mistake that a lot of new just investors in general make. They're not good at enforcing the rules, and so and there's many others as well. With mobile home parks, due diligence on the utility setup is a big deal. I mean, it sounds like you guys actually. You crossed all of your T's and dotted all your I's with the well and the septic. I mean, you guys called the health department. It sounds like you called code enforcement. You wanted to make sure that there was no, not a history of, code violations or health department violations. You guys checked with the state with regards to the well. I'm sure you probably went back and looked at the historical reports on the well testing and such. And so the due diligence can be the absolute killer in the mobile home park business. If you skip due diligence, especially when you're dealing with private utilities, it can be a killer in the business, and it can really wipe out your entire investment. I mean, pretty darn quickly if something were to go wrong, you know? So, I mean, for instance, let me give you an example. Like this park, you paid $400 for it, you put $100,000 down. Let's say that you guys didn't test that well, and you just took the owner's word for it, and everything was going great. And let's find out that a month into it, you find out, or the EPA or whoever regulates that, the well in state of New York or state of Connecticut, they come in and they test it, and they find out that whatever level, I don't know what the different levels are of minerals, but one of them is really high, and either they're going to say like you've got to drill a new well, or you've got to upgrade the system. It's going to be 60 or 70 grand to upgrade the system in order to reduce this mineral count or whatever. I'm just making stuff up now, but like a $50,000 or $60,000 impact on that size of a park is catastrophic. I mean, you could probably get through it, but it would hurt a lot as far as returns go, especially if you just especially if you were just that $100,000 you guys put down, if that was like everything that you kind of had planned to set aside to buy this first park, and all of a sudden you got another big nut you got to crack of 50 or 60 grand, and let's say they weren't going to let you put a well back in there. Let's say that guys, hey, this well's shot. Like, you cannot drill a new well. The city hookups out front at the park, it's there, and we want you to tap into it. But guess what? The impact fees are $150,000. You got to pay them, and you got to tap in. No other option. I mean, if you didn't know that going in, I mean, you can plan for that stuff if you know ahead of time. But if you don't prepare for that kind of thing, it's catastrophic. It's a lot easier to manage if it's a really big park, but the smaller park you get, those big capital hits, they can kill you, and they can drown you pretty quickly.
Yeah, definitely.
So, anything else, guys? Any final words of wisdom or advice that you'd like to share with the listeners before we wrap things up for the day?
It's such a long journey. I think if anything, I would preach just a little bit of patience, because it took us well over a year. For people from start to finish to really close on a place. So, I would say for people that are truly invested, just what Kevin was saying earlier, if you have warm leads, keep calling them. Don't be shy to just ask a bunch of questions, and be patient. I think it'll definitely happen for sure. It just might take a while.
Yeah. No, I tell everyone, give yourself a year. It doesn't matter if you're going to invest in parks or self-storage or shopping centers, whatever it is. Like, give yourself a year. Dedicate a year to learning everything you need to know. Go through the proper channels for education, and but give it a year. Give it a year, because you're going to hit road bumps and roadblocks and all kinds of other stuff, frustrations and disappointments, but give it a year, because a year is typically enough time. If you're actually very diligent and you're kind of a very ambitious person, that you're going to make it happen. Well, give yourself a year, because that's plenty of time to do it, and it allows for some of those other failures along the way that you'll probably encounter. So. Well, guys, I really appreciate you coming on the show. I really enjoy you taking the time out of your day. Congratulations again on that very first park. It really is. I mean, it's a monumental step to make with being a mobile home park investor, any type of investor. Like I said, whether you're buying apartment buildings or shopping centers, that first deal is everything. And it really is the step that really creates the momentum. It gets the excitement. It gets the juices flowing. Like, you close on that park and you're like, oh yeah, we did it. We got the first one done. Let's start looking for the second one now. It's an exciting moment, and it's really just pushing through that first one that creates all the leverage moving forward. And so I'm excited for you guys. I look forward to hearing your story a year or two from now when you tell me you've got a couple hundred spaces underneath ownership and management, because it all stemmed from that 11 space park that you bought. So it's pretty exciting. But guys, again, thank you for coming on the show. Really appreciate it. And guys, that's all we have for today's episode. And before I close things out here for the day, I just want to remind you of the free gift that Charles and I offer to listeners who take the time to go over iTunes and leave a 5-star rating and review. We will give you the exact cold call script that we use in our very own business. As George and Mark and I were just talking about, direct mail is a big part of our business, but so is cold calling. And we will give you the exact cold call script that we use in our very own park business. So What you need to do is after you leave your review on iTunes, go ahead and send us an email to gift@mobilehomeparkacademy.com and tell us who you are and what screen name that you use to leave the review. And we'll go ahead and send you that free gift. And be sure to also stop by mobilehomeparkacademy.com. You can listen to all of our past podcast episodes. You can also download a free copy of our popular ebook, The 21 Biggest Mistakes Investors Make When Purchasing Their First Mobile Home Park and How to Avoid Them. And also, you can check out the Academy. The Academy's there. It's live. And one thing I forgot to mention about the Academy, we've got that 2-hour free training that we offer. And just as a gift, we got a really awesome gift at the end of that free training. But you have to stick around to the very end to find out how to redeem it. But Charles and I, we have 2 different proprietary evaluator software tools that we use specific to mobile home parks. We have like a quickie one, which is kind of like, it takes 5-10 minutes. You can run a model, a quick financial model, and just kind of separate the winners from the losers. And we have a more in-depth financial modeling tool that we use in our business. But if you go and you listen to that free training that we have, the 2-hour training, and I think it's just that 2 hours in length, but it's all good content. It's no fluff in there. All really good content. You listen to the very end. At the very end, I will tell you how to redeem a free version of that quick evaluator software. It's the mobile home park quick evaluator software, worth $197. I'll give it to you for free, but you got to listen to the end. So I forgot to mention that in the beginning. So go check it out, mobilehomeparkacademy.com. And guys, this is Kevin Bupp. I appreciate you joining the show, and you have a wonderful week. Take care.
Congratulations for taking the necessary steps to achieving massive success through the highly lucrative niche of mobile home park investing. Be sure to visit our website, mobilehomeparkacademy.com, to download your free digital ebook version of the 21 biggest mistakes investors make when buying their first mobile home park and how you can avoid them. And while you're there, be sure to subscribe to our free monthly mobile home park investing newsletter, which is jammed full of valuable tips, tricks, and strategies to help you accelerate your path to success as a mobile home park investor. More information about this podcast and its hosts can be found by visiting mobilehomeparkacademy.com.